is just lay down onto our backs. Make sure you'll just tilt your pelvis from left to right. And I just want you to make sure you've got a nice even position between your left and right hip, left and right shoulder, and then also up and down that back. So just tilt that pelvis up and then just drop it down. So in this position here, we want to make sure we are nice and even on the floor. We're going to go to some shoulder drops. So your hands are going to raise up towards the sky, palms towards each other. We're going to lift our shoulders up. So our fingertips are going to reach a little bit higher. You might feel the shoulder blades come off the mat slightly. And then exhale, drop them back down again. Take a deep breath in. Let's do that a couple more times. Reach up towards the ceiling. And then exhale, drop down. So just relax your head, neck, your forehead, your jaw, and then we're just going to reach up. So almost like somebody's about to pull you up, and then relax the shoulders back down. Let's do that a couple more times. Lift. As you're doing this, just consciously push your back into the floor. So your lower back is pushing into the floor. Your upper back is just raising up ever so slightly off the mat. And you're depressing the shoulders away from your ears as you descend the shoulders back to the mat. Just 2 more like this. Take a deep breath in as you reach, and then exhale, descend. Take a deep breath in as you reach, and exhale, descend. Now we're going to go into some arm circles this time, but because I have a wall next to me, mine are going to go into bended elbow circles. But feel free, if you've got the space around you, just to keep those arms extended, elbows extended, okay? So take a deep breath in. We're just going to take those arms back behind us. You might feel a little bit of a pull regarding the abdominals, and you're going to go in for the reach back behind you. Remember, you're going to descend that torso, descend the rib cage, pull that navel in. So it's a bit of a contraindication. We're reaching back with our hands, and we're still pulling the pelvis down, pulling the core down towards our feet. We're going to reach our hands back. I'm going to bend my elbows, but feel free to keep them straight. And then lower them down towards the heels as you raise back up towards the sky. Let's do that a couple more times. We're going to lift, reach backwards. I'm going to bend my elbows, but feel free to keep them straight. Lower, reach alongside the floor, and then raise up towards the sky. Now the good thing about bending the elbows, you're going to feel this around your pectorals, around that chest area. Just be mindful that you're pulling in the abdominals, pushing into your lower back, into the mat, and then raise up. Let's do that 3 more times. I don't know about you, but this actually feels so good for my upper body. I'm opening up my chest, relaxing the elbows down. And then remember, the more and more times you do this, the more able you're going to be able to relax into the position and get a little bit more range of movement, yeah? Okay, last one here. Lower down with control. Beautiful. Now let's move on to knee circles. I'm keeping my knees bent. I'm just going to raise the one knee up. So my right leg is going to come up. And all I'm going to do is keep that knee in line with my hip. And I'm going to rotate and circle the knee, almost like I'm drawing a circle on the ceiling. Now, you are going to find some pelvic tilts. You are going to feel some shifts here. But I want you to contract the abdominals. I want you to prevent the hips from moving so much and really press into that left foot into the mat. Now, relax the shoulders, relax your head, neck. Your arms aren't doing anything, but it feels like they're really keeping you secure on the ground. And you may start to feel this around the lower abdominals, around that back, pushing into the mat, keeping that pelvis as stable as possible. And remember, if it's starting to move too much, narrow the circles. So you don't need to go as wide with the circles. Now, I don't know about you, but I can start to feel it in my glutes, in my hamstrings, as well as my abdominals. And I'm pushing my left foot down. So my left glute and hamstrings are starting to engage too. In this position, pause here, let's circle the other way. Let's start off small circles. And remember, we don't want to bring the knee in too much towards our chest. We want to take the knee away from us, keeping the pelvis as stable as possible, drawing that belly button in, lower back pushing into the ground. And then just bring that knee in towards the chest. Just give it a little bit of a hug if you felt a little bit of tension around that hip flexor. It was doing a lot of work there too. Planting that foot back down. Let's go on to the other side. Knee lifts. And you're just going to circle one way. Whatever you feel comfortable. Circle that way. Remember, you're pushing that right foot now into the floor. You might feel a little bit more engagement because we've just done the circles on this. So the whole point is our glutes are working, our hamstrings are engaged on the right side as we're trying to keep this right pelvis stable. As our left wants to move, it's trying to get our right to move too. But we want to try and stabilize that by drawing in the abdominals, pulling in that rib cage down. And we're also going to feel this around our lower back pushing into the floor. Let's circle the other way this time. So yeah, minute, very specific, low level exercise can actually feel quite challenging when we're doing this. Now if your quad is on fire, your hip flexor is on fire, that's good. We've just got a couple more. Keep pushing the right foot into the mat. Last two. One more. Beautiful. Bring that knee in towards the chest. Just give it a little bit of a TLC. You might find that one side is probably a little bit more challenging in different ways than the other. And now we're going to move into double knee circles. So when we come into this position, we're going to lift up our knees, both our knees. Remember, the knees are tractioning over our hip flexors. And I just want you to circle both legs. Now you can keep your hands on your belly or hands alongside your body. Just try and relax your shoulders away from your ears. And this you're going to feel a little bit more into the abdominals. But remember, we're not bringing the knees past our hip flexors, so keeping them away. It's almost like we've got a bit of a barrier from our hip flexors. And you can do this with your hands too. If you bend your elbows, bring up a wall with those hands, you're making sure those knees don't go past hip flexors or towards your abdominals, towards your navel. We want to keep it away. Pause here, let's circle the other way. Now you are going to feel a little bit more of a shift between left and right hip flexors here, and that's perfectly fine. But I just want you to slow down, narrow the actual circle. If you're feeling this in your lower back, I want you to push your lower back into the floor. You should be feeling this into the abdominals a whole lot more than anything else here. Beautiful. Drop those feet down. Let's go back into some pelvic clocks just to release any tension you may have arisen from that exercise. So lower back into the floor. I want you to arch that back. So you're pushing your pelvis into the mat. You might find a little bit of an arch between the mat and the back. Push down that navel as you tilt the pelvis up and push your mid to upper back into the mat. Let's do that again. So you're overarching, creating that nice bridge between the mat and the back. And then pushing the back down, making sure all facets, all vertebrae of your spine is pushing into the mat. Drawing down that rib cage. Let's do that one more time. Overarch. Keeping it nice and open, nice and fluid. And then exhale, pushing that down into the floor. Now let's just go for left and right this time. And we're going to go into a clockwork action. So for those of you who haven't done this one before, we're going to go north, west, east, south, or whichever way you want to go. So we're going to make sure we're going from tilting south and north, and then we're going to go from east to west, yeah? So we're going to drop our pelvis over arch that back. Then we're going to open up our pelvis. So it's going to tilt towards the sky. Your lower back is pushing into the mat. Then we're going to shift the pelvis over to the west and then over to the east. So we're going to go over to the south this time. Now that we're in the nice clockwork action, we're going to go to the west, we're going to go to the north, we're going to go to the east, go down to the south. If you've clicked your back just then, I definitely did. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear that on the mic, but that really loosened up any tension as I'm using my pelvis to keep tilting from left to right, up and down. Let's do that one more time. Up to the north, over to the east, down to the south. Let's shift over to the other side this time. So we're going to go to the south, north, west, south, east, north, west, and south. And now, you may be thinking, well, I'm not really doing much, I don't really feel much, but I really want you to figure out what your lower back, so that triangle in your sacrum, is constantly putting pressure into the mat. So you may feel that bony part pushing into the mat a lot more, and you're not actually moving too much from left to right, yeah? But the whole point is you're just moving around that pelvis and ironing out any creases that you may have accumulated during the day. We're going to go for hip rolls this time. So this time, pulling both knees up to tabletop, hands alongside your body. Take a deep breath in here, and I just want you to shift your knees over to the right, come back up to center, and then over to the left. Now, if you've got a yoga block, I should have said this earlier, you could put a yoga block in between those thighs, squeezing those thighs together, and then you're shifting over to the right. We're not going very far, but only go to the point where you can come back using your abdominals and not your back. So it's all about core strength here, basic foundation to Pilates. Come back up to center, and then over to the other side. Let's do that 2 more times. Try not to rush the descend, and then try and really pull that navel in as you come back to center. And let's go over to the other side. Use the same thing, pull that navel in so you can come back to center. Let's do 1 more on each side. Beautiful, with control. Pulling it back up to center. Dropping the feet down this time. We're going to go into a bridge with an overhead reach. Now, what I mean by that, it's not conventional Pilates, but we're going to add in a little bit more mobility around our shoulders. So we're going to push our feet into the floor, make sure they're even distance, hip distance apart. As we lift our hips, let's just try and lift our hips first. And then we're going to lower with control, okay? As we lift our hips, let's keep going with this momentum. We're dropping our ribcage down towards our pelvis. We're almost bringing in the tilt of the pelvis is going to lift up our hips, and our ribcage is drawing in. And we're creating a nice long line from our knees, hips, and shoulders. So remember, we're tilting the pelvis, pushing the ground away, and drawing in our ribcage. Let's do that a couple more times. Now that we're getting used to pushing the ground away, then lifting our hips as a consequence, drawing our ribcage in, we're going to be able to really squeeze on hamstrings and glutes here. So as we keep going on this momentum, I want you to take those hands alongside the mat and keep moving like this. So again, slow, controlled, intentional work with those heels pushing into the mat, drawing those hips up, pulling that pelvis in. So it's almost like you're tucking in your bum so you can lift up. Now on the next one, we're going to start raising up our arm in line, in time with the hips. So we're going to lift our hips as our right arm raises and reaches behind us, coming all the way back down. Let's just keep going with this right side, okay? Take a deep breath in as we push the ground away with our feet, tucking our tailbone in and reaching back with our right arm. Let's do that 3 more times. Remember, you're pushing the ground away, really working those glutes and hamstrings, reaching back with the arm, and then lowering. Now only go to your range of movement. If it's a little bit too tough and you can't go all the way back, that's okay. This is the whole point of the exercise. We're getting that range of movement, we're getting the mobility in our arm, and opening up our hips at the same time. Good, we've just got 1 more like this. Take your time, tuck that pelvis in, draw the feet into the floor as the hips lift and the arm raises. Lower all the way back down with control, but our hips aren't going to stop, okay? So we're going to switch arms straight away. Lift up that left arm, reach back as the feet pushing into the floor, lower with control. Now really be specific and intentional with pushing the ground away as you lift your hips. And this arm might be a little bit more freer. This shoulder might be a little bit less tense. Or it could be tighter. We don't know until we figure out what is working in ourselves. What are we harboring? What are we holding on to? This is the moment we can just be aware of it. And we're working, just by being here, and working on the way we can just release any tension around this area. Just 1 more here as we lift up with those hips and then lift back. Beautiful. Okay, so we're going to stay laying and we're going to do some lateral breath work, okay? So Pilates is very much about lateral breathing. Keeping your back onto the floor, feet bent, we're going to take our hands alongside our rib cage. Now this is a really good way of doing it because your back's nice and straight, right? What we're going to do is take a deep breath in through our nose. As we do this, expand the rib cage into both hands. And then exhale, draw the rib cage into midline. So we're trying not to flare out our rib cage upwards. We're trying to expand our rib cage outwards, okay? So take a deep breath in. Expand the rib cage. Push your lower back into the floor. You might find that this is helpful to visualize. Expanding the rib cage, expanding that whole abdominal area. And then exhale, draw the breath back into midline. Let's do that 2 more times. As we inhale, you can close your eyes on this one as well, just to tap into the breath work. Draw that belly button in. Inhale, open. Exhale, draw in. Now we're going to keep on this breath technique, and the whole point of this one is I want you to draw those feet and knees in towards each other. So toes are touching, heels are touching. Keep breathing here as you expand the ribcage outwards, and now just prevent the ribcage from raising up towards the ceiling. As we're doing this breath work, I want you to open the feet, open this knees wide into like a butterfly position, and then exhale, draw the navel in as the knees close. Take a deep breath in, expand the rib cage into those hands, widen up those knees, and then use the abdominal, use the breath to close the knees in. Let's do that a couple more times. Squeeze the glutes as you close in. Inhale here. As you open, exhale, squeeze the thighs. You might feel a little bit of shaking. You're pushing your lower back into the mat. You're expanding that rib cage outwards, laterally. And then you're also trying to squeeze the glutes, squeeze the legs, the knees together, okay? So if you're shaking, fantastic. You're just releasing any tension that your muscles need to release at this time. Let's do 3 more like this as you exhale, draw it in. My legs are definitely shaking at this point. So yeah, those small movements can make a huge difference to our body. Let's do 2 more, just because it just feels so good. Open up our thighs, squeeze the body inwards, draw that breath in. Inhale as you expand, rib cage goes into the hands, knees out wide. And then draw the belly button in as the knees come together. Fantastic. Just stay here just for a moment. And we're going to go into a knee fold. Okay, so we're going to go into right leg lift, and then drop back down to the mat. Again, I want your pelvis to be nice and even as we lift our left leg and then lower with control. Good. Lift our right leg and lower with control. So because we did a lot of glute work, we did a lot of hip opening, keep going with these reps, you should start to feel the hamstrings, the glutes, as you're pulling your pelvis into the mat. You're dropping down the rib cage, and in this moment you're really making sure your thighs, your legs are doing all the work for you. So if you weren't feeling shaky before, this might trigger it. And remember, if you just need a break, that's okay. Just stretch it out, move those hips, circle those knees, and then come back into it when you're ready. We're just going to do a couple more though. Stick with me. Right leg raise into tabletop, drop back down, flex the feet. Let's do something with those toes. Make sure the calves are active here too. Lift. The knee is tracking in line with the hip flexors. It's not coming in too close. If it is, you're not going to be feeling the abdominals as much. So try and feel those abdominals as you push your lower back into the mat. Try and really focus on the pelvis, even distribution between left and right. Good, we're doing 1 more on each side, and we're going to step it up another level. Now if you're happy doing the left lift, the right lift, that's okay, keep going. For those of you who want to come with me and take it up another notch, we're going to raise the right leg up, we're going to raise the left leg up, keeping the distance away from our hip flexors, and we're going to drop the feet into the floor and then raise back up again. Now, just be careful you're not overarching your back. Take a deep breath in. Remember, we're breathing into the lateral part of our rib cage. We're depressing our rib cage down. We're really working into the glutes, hamstrings, abdominals. Thighs are definitely working here. Keep those feet flexed. Keep the lower back in line with the mat. So we're not overarching, we're pushing our whole back into the mat. Belly button is nice and secure, keeping us strong. That's doing all the work. Good, let's just do 5 more here. Try not to rush it. Remember, if you're feeling anything in your lower back, just pause. Bring the knees to chest if you need to. For those of you, keep going. We've just got 3 more here. Good. Last one. Beautiful. Come all the way back up. Just drop the feet back down, and we're going to come straight into some curl ups, okay? So belly button is pulling in, taking those hands behind those thighs this time, okay? Take a deep breath in. We're going to lift up our chest, drop the rib cage. I'm going to walk my hands up nice and carefully up towards a seated position. And then a little bit of a fun movement. I want you to bend the knees and just rock back. So I don't want you to curl back. I want you to curl up. I'm focusing on the curl up. And then we're just going to swing back, okay? So let's try that again. Feet hip distance apart. Taking a hold of the back of the thighs. Lift up your head, neck and shoulders. Keep your chin tucked in. Walk those hands up. Walk those feet forward if you need to. Lift up to a seated position. Pause. Cross those legs. Roll back. Just have a little bit of a play with it. Let's massage that back. Good. Let's walk up. Belly button is pulling in. Reaching up. And then roll back. Give yourself a little bit of a massage. Let's do that 2 more times as you lift up, chin tucked in, pulling that navel into a seated position. Rock back. Last one. Belly button is pulling in, walking those hands up, lifting up with control, and then rock back. Beautiful. So we're just going to end with our rib cage closure with spinal curls, but we're only going to do halfway up curls. So rib cage is pulling in. We're going to take those hands on those thighs this time, and we're going to walk our fingertips up, just making sure the pelvis is nice and neutral, pushing your lower back into the mat, raising up the chest. And then walk those hands back. Let's do that 5 more times. We're going to lift up, pull that navel in, lower with control. And again, lift, lower with control. 3 more like this. Lift, lower with control. Last 2. Push your lower back into the floor. Draw that rib cage in. Lower with control. Last one. Lift, lift, lift. And lower. Beautiful. Now, if you just wanted to take some time, lay on the mat and just do a 5-minute meditation, please feel free to do that. I'm just going to chill out now, and thank you so much for joining me. I will see you on the mat next week for a next brand new Pilates Back to Basics. Have an amazing day. I'll speak to you soon.